That was so beautiful and such a wonderful lead-in to our conversation with the young man who went to where walking was done even more than it has been here in Winston-Salem. Ollie, you went to Montgomery. Other places in Alabama as well?
Went to Selma.
Well, those were the ones, weren't they? And you were with an interfaith group with your dad. Dad says hi. And you love history.
I do.
And that means I love you because I used to teach American history to 8th graders. And when they loved it, boy, was that fun. So I look forward to this conversation with you. And I guess we don't have to stick specifically to the words that are on our papers, but I'm so glad. I'm sorry Marcy is not able to do this, but I feel delight that I am stepping up to this. Tell me why you wanted to go. What was you were the only kid on the trip?
I was.
Yes.
There were,
I fell asleep.
Oh.
oh, okay. What made you want to go with a group of adults?
Well, I really like history.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see Montgomery.
Why did you want to see Montgomery?
Because it has a lot of history. I like Capitol buildings. I wanted to see that.
Okay, all right. And you're especially interested in this part of American history.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. You have studied and know about a lot of the civil rights fights for civil rights and the distresses and so forth. And you saw where some of that happened.
Yes.
As I said, I taught American history. I taught middle schoolers for about 15 years before I decided I needed a harder job and became a Quaker pastor. But this is an intriguing part of American history to be in class and to be a teacher in this particular era in which there are some people that don't think American history should be taught. And I'm going to yawn too. But at least this part of American history, we should slough over it and not go deep into this part of America's past. How do you feel about that? I know that's not a...
I mean, yeah, I think it's important to learn about.
What would happen, do you think, if we just don't learn about the past?
Well,
I don't want to put you on the spot, although I do that a lot.
Things probably wouldn't end up great.
Probably not. Yeah. I look forward to. Well, I won't be around too much longer, but when your age group, I've grandchildren in your age group, I feel great hope for what might happen in our world. Now tell me, let me get back on script. I might be replaced. I might not get to be the moderator next time. Tell me about each of your stops on your trip, and then at each point, I'm interested in what you not only took from being there, but from the group you were with, and what you learned from them as well as what you were seeing. Where did you start?
So we started, the first stop was the Legacy Museum, which is in Montgomery. Well, inside there's a memorial to what I think like the 10 to 15% of Africans who died on the way across the Atlantic, not even like the ones who died once they got here. And then, yeah, it was very moving. So that's only like across the ocean, not even here.
And what kind of ships were they in? Ollie, did they show anything about the ships?
I don't know what types of ships they were.
Okay. Just as an aside, then these were in the holds that the slaves or the captured Africans were in holds down below the water level in the hold, very very closely packed together. So that in itself could have been a cause for some reason. And you said that the seeing the heads poking out of the sand.
Yeah.
I don't know that image. I don't know what.
Wait, the memorial was like this walkway, and then on each side there's like some sands and like heads poking out. Like that was the memorial.
That was representing.
Yes.
2 million died on the way to America. Oh, so where did you go next?
We went to the Capitol building.
And you have an interest in Capitol building.
I do. I've been to 21 that have gotten stamped.
Uh-huh.
I've been to more, I just haven't been able to get them stamped.
Oh my goodness. And your interest in the one in, I guess it's Montgomery, right?
Yes.
That's what, I'm sorry, my ignorance. Montgomery's Capitol, how is it different than some others that you've seen?
Well, for the most part, some of the other Capitol buildings that I've been to have like gotten away from like all the Confederate monuments and stuff. Not in Montgomery. Like I'm actually kind of surprised because Montgomery itself is actually like they're pretty good with this kind of stuff. Like they've got a statue to Rosa Parks. They've mostly gotten around to like getting rid of the monuments that are on like city property.
I see.
But the Capitol building's owned by the state of Alabama. So
so the state is different from the city.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've got a statue of Jefferson Davis, J. Marion Sims, who've been he was the father of modern gynecology, who's been compared to Joseph Mengele. So that's not good.
That's understatement. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And were there any Confederate flags? Was there any?
Oh yeah, loads.
Oh really?
I wouldn't say loads.
At the Capitol building?
No.
I mean, officially. I mean.
They weren't like flags, just like inscriptions with
I
a flag
see.
on it.
I see. Did the others in your group, what were their reactions to some of the things that you saw, both at the Legacy Museum and well, really wherever you went? Did you find the adults were as moved or as interested as you were?
I think they were. I mean, there was a section where we were like kind of separated because we got to the museum a lot faster than other people. So we left and went to the Capitol building with a few other people.
I see.
And some of them stayed back.
But
yeah, I'd say that they were moved. Like I think they're all.
well, but they wanted to go on this trip,
Yes,
so
they did,
obviously they
yes.
were interested. What is the group? What was the group you went with?
It's led by a local Moravian pastor, and it's looking at active peacekeeping.
I see.
And one of the members of the group, it was around her birthday, and she wanted to plan this trip to go to the Legacy Museum.
Oh wow.
So it was us. It was the pastor, myself, Ollie, and then a Lutheran pastor, someone who works with City with Dwellings, and then a couple of other ministers and lay leaders in the community.
Goodness gracious, I don't know how come I didn't get tailed into that. That sounds like a wonderful trip and a interesting group of people. When you're with that many ministers, then it can be a whole lot of fun. I can tell you. A whole lot of fun. But seriously, there is faith is a real important has a real important role in what happened 200 years ago, well, 500 years ago, 400 years ago, and last week, or yesterday. But the idea, and maybe you know this, Ollie, that during the time, the era in which Africans were captured and brought to this, it wasn't a country at the time, to the colonies and so forth at first, and then to the country. The church, the Christian church, very much supported the idea of slavery, or did not fight it.
Yeah, like I think it was like Stonewall Jackson who said like, I don't like slavery, but God likes it, so I mean I just have to like.
Hey, well, you know it's good to know God.
That's what he said.
Yeah, I think well, I don't need to make my little parenthetical comments, but when we speak for God in such strong ways, we better doggone be sure we are not speaking against God's people. So just, that's my thought for the day. Okay, so you've got Judith Bengley here, and you mean this was a wide, your observations were inclusive of a lot of things. Had you expected to find so much, maybe not different things, but specific things to interest you? Or when you went, were you going to see about slavery and civil rights, or did you know about individual people and things you were going to be seeing?
A bit of both.
Uh-huh.
So like we also went to the bridge in Selma. Yeah, it's not great.
You said in your notes, please tell everybody what you said about the bridge.
It wasn't, for me what was powerful was not what was there, but what wasn't there. There really was not a lot. There was a memorial, like a small memorial at the end of like a half boarded up like strip mall. And like one of the plinths had fallen down, and like no one's really bothered to put it back up yet. There's litter all around the bridge. Selma's the poorest city in the state of Alabama, I believe.
What was the last thing you said?
Selma is the poorest city in the state of Alabama, I believe. And it's not.
That means it must be very poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was distressing for me to read that. We are, even though we're Southerners, we are at a distance from what, both physically and, I mean, geographically as well as time-wise. But it's ironic that last week, about the time I decided that I could volunteer to take Marcy's role here, I was going through some things, and they had Time Magazine's cover of John Lewis when he died last year or year before last, perhaps it was. And I don't know, the interjunctions of all that is, and we have, people here today who lived through it, and even at a distance, and some more directly than others. So I think it's wonderful you wanted to share this with us. Let's see. What would you rather have seen at the Capitol building besides what you saw?
Acknowledgement, but I'm also not really big on statues, so maybe just some flowers.
Acknowledgement. Tell me what you mean by that.
Just saying, hey, we messed up.
That was going to be exactly my phrase too. And just to acknowledge that to be able to say we were wrong and we're sorry. Yeah. Takes a lot of guts for a lot of people to do that, but that would be interesting. So if there were, instead of the statuary, if there were a field of flowers or something like that, it would be.
I just like flowers.
Yeah. So do I. Yeah. Across from the Capitol building is the church where Dr. King preached. And near there on the street corner is a statue of Rosa Parks. What kind of, when you went, you knew a lot, I know that. I mean, this was not revelatory to you, but do you have some sort of a different understanding of what hero, what that word means? What is a hero, and how there are heroes that we just don't ever see? Do you know what I'm trying to get at? No, you probably don't, but take it anyway.
Yeah. I find it really interesting, like how close the church is to the Capitol building. It's like, it's like at the Capitol building.
Oh, so, so you have you have the this and the that, right across the street.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know how, like, the zoning laws, like, allowed that to happen, considering how restrictive they were.
You mean for that to be a black church?
Yeah, right next to the Capitol building. I'm surprised that happened, but I mean.
I would never have thought to question. That's an interesting thing, because often you would not have any black institution that close to downtown where the real business, was being done. Yeah, that's a good point. That would be a good research topic to find out. I'm not going to take it for myself, but if you find out, let us know. And you walked across the bridge. Yeah. How did that feel?
There was not any fanfare. Like, it wasn't. If you were coming from Selma across the bridge, you wouldn't know what. Yeah. Like, if you didn't know what the bridge was, you wouldn't. There wasn't like I don't think there's a sign on the Selma side. I don't believe.
Certainly not an obvious one.
No.
It's interesting because I don't remember. Well, I guess it was when Barack Obama was president, and they walked. Was that when they walked across the bridge, and John Lewis and Michelle and Barack Obama, and there was such an incredible. It was not high drama, because when you have Barack and Michelle Obama, you have the kind of people we would enjoy sitting with rather than wearing our formal clothes all the time. But there was a sense of presence and dignity and life and acknowledgement, as you said, that this happened. Acknowledged that it happened. Has Selma made any sort of apology? Bull, whatever his name is, Bull Connor. Have you ever heard that? Wasn't that he who did the hose, who hosed him?
But I think that there was a different. I think he was closer to Montgomery, and I think there's a different sheriff for that county. I think because he was. I don't remember his name when we were there, but his name was there in Montgomery.
So maybe it was. I was thinking,
I can look it up.
But I believe I know. When you get old, that's about all you can do. You go from knowing to believing. I believe that it was Bull Connor who hosed down John Lewis, but that is a mixture of life and memories and things that I don't know for sure. Have you ever seen a video of a powerful fire hose or? No.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
It's not. Do you have any thoughts, Ollie, about how someone's can become so powerful, and so what would cause the Bull Durhams, But you see where my mind is. Bull Connor and the George Wallace, all those people who just were adamant that those people, and I think they used always like a pejorative people would have any rights at all. What would make a person refuse to allow another person?
I don't know. I mean, like, the governor of Arkansas around that time, Orville Faubus. I don't know how I know that.
Well, yeah, that's one of those things you just absorb.
He all around was pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Brown versus Board of Education, he sent in the state militia of Arkansas to prevent students from attending Little Rock Central High School, and President Eisenhower had to send in the National Guard to escort them in. I don't know what would cause them to, other than just fear.
I was gonna ask if you think fear of what?
Difference.
Fear of difference, okay. Maybe fear of losing power.
Yeah.
Fear of having to give up a little bit so somebody else could have enough. I think that's one of the biggest fears now. I've asked in some of the Sunday school classes I've taught, what would you be willing to give up so other people could have enough? And more people sit like this, Well, I don't know. Well, would you sell one car and that kind of thing? We are curiously compassionate as well as being afraid. And having those two things together maybe leads to the disruption that we've seen. I'm lecturing now.
The sheriff's name was Jim Clark.
Jim Clark.
Sheriff Clark.
Well, you see, I said Connor, and his name is Clark, so I'm making, so thank you for you don't have to go far to find terror and terrible things. And that a young man wants to find out what his history is, what our history is. That's really, as I said, I like people who like history. I was in 4th grade when Brown v. Topeka was ruled. 4th grade. Now that was a long time ago, and I came home. I mean, of course, I didn't know anything about it, but I came home one day and I heard my daddy was I heard him say something about, Evelyn, my mother, can you believe they did that? That kind of thing. My daddy was a wonderful man. My mother was a wonderful woman, but that was Eastern North Carolina. So you see, everybody in here, white and black, has an inheritance of what your parents and their parents and their parents experienced. And you have something that I find unique among, because I don't know a whole lot of people your age, except my grandson's in Pennsylvania. But you have, your interest is being affirmed by your family. You're being allowed to think for yourself, and is that right?
Yeah,
Do you have to clean your room?
Huh.
Please don't remind them.
Listen, there will be no violence, no hoses. Ollie, I'm sorry,
Did you get those?
but you can come to my house and clean my room. Now, tell me, I'm sorry, tell me about the Memorial for Peace and Justice. How was that moving to you?
Well, just like some background. So it's, I think I've got a picture, but I don't think you can all see it. So there's like a walkway. Correct me, like if you think I should describe it better.
Sure.
There's a walkway, and there's like, I don't know, tubes. What are they?
They kind of look like they're the rectangular
Yeah.
square, almost looks like a small skinny coffin.
Yeah, they're metal, they're kind of rusty.
Yes.
They've got the names of the counties, and then every single person lynched in a racially motivated lynching in that county, and then the date. Even if it's just one person per thing, there would still be several hundreds.
There were 800 of them.
And that was in Alabama.
Or 800 counties.
800 counties.
And that was in Alabama. That was the memorial is about Alabama.
No, across the entire United States.
800?
Yeah,
No.
That doesn't.
and there are only 100
Seems like-
counties in North Carolina.
Well, I know, but we're talking. Excuse me. I guess we're having a conversation. 800 lynchings. Is that what
No.
you're saying?
800 counties.
Oh, I'm
At
sorry.
least one lynching.
Okay, I'm
across
sorry.
the
I
entire
was.
United
Yeah,
States.
I was hearing. I was hearing. I was presumptive in what I was hearing. I watched some of CBS Sunday Morning this morning, and there's the earliest the initial story is about Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, and what it's a terribly violent city, and I believe there are so far. There have been, I think it said 12 young black men killed this year. And then they had showed a church with the purple ribbons, and the pastor said, this is in the past, however many years, there's 500 of those ribbons. And I mean, it wasn't just 1 year, but still the visual. Don't you think that hearing things is one thing, but seeing them?
Mm-hmm.
You know differently now than you did before.
Yeah, I think, obviously this is not usually a good way to say something, but I'm going to quote Stalin.
Oh, that's wonderful.
If one person dies, it's a tragedy. If, a million people die, it's a statistic. And I think that's, but visualizing that with, a memorial for, each one is how you stop making it a statistic.
Each name was a person.
Yes.
Who breathed and loved and was loved and did what all people do in one way or another. And somebody said, no, yeah. I have chills in not a good way. That would be a very moving and yet also maddening thing to see. Are there other things you would like to tell us about your trip?
The memorial, at the end of the walk, there's a little area dedicated to the communities that are trying to come to terms.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think that's good.
Yeah. Once again, you've got a little hiccup of something positive.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I like seeing you smile. I was going to ask you, and I'm not sure it's an appropriate question, but it's. Oh, I don't mean that kind of. The trip was for a particular purpose. How long was the trip?
2 days.
We got there late Friday night, left
Really late.
1 o'clock on Sunday.
Oh my goodness! So you saw a lot in a very short period of time. Yeah. Well, I was the question that I had decided not to ask, but I will. We have a friendly audience here, don't you think? Did you have any fun on the trip?
I'd say I did, yeah. Obviously, not with
Oh no. But the reason I thought about the question, Ollie, is that you were with the grown-ups, and of course you know your dad pretty well, and maybe you know the other ones fairly well too. No, not really. But I know from chaperoning, we took our 8th graders to Washington DC, and
I'm doing that in like a month.
well, you need a I can't go, I'm having surgery next week, I won't be able to go. Next trip, I has to be at home. I don't know if I could actually chaperone 8th graders again, but there were moments of levity. It wasn't everybody sitting around feeling gloomy the whole time you were gone.
No.
And yet, what do you think? The group came back. How will the group be any different than it was before you all took the trip, do you think?
I think you should answer this.
Okay.
Because I've never read them before in my life.
So because of the history of who the people are, the different varying ages, I think it was good just to see. Like it's one of those things where we learned it in theory, and we actually went to see the physical space of it all.
Right.
And then the memorial. I think that one of the more powerful moments was that memorial that I was talking about,
Right.
just to see the horrible history of it all. Like the thing that I take away from it, I have some pictures of it that I'll happy to show, but all these little rustic rectangles were hanging, and it was meant to be like they said it's meant to look like this. It's meant to look like it's like almost like a body hanging.
Yeah.
And it's a very like a powerful marker, and just to see the history of all. And that was the kind of from the conversations that I've had with the group since then, that was one of the more powerful moments. Was that Sunday we were there Sunday morning, just walking around in silence. Both the kind of a abstract way of looking at something that was actually absolutely horrible in history. So
I would hope, and this is a terrible hope, but I would hope that more and more children would be taken to see that. I would hope that my own grandchildren would see that sort of visualization of the horrible things humans can do to one another, and then all you have to do is look around and see the wonderful things as well, and yet the horrible is still going on. What are you going to do with all your love for history, Ollie, when you get to be older than 8th grade?
I do like going to historic sites, so I'll probably be doing more of that.
I see. Do you have any thoughts at all about being a teacher? No. You can call me in a couple of years and tell me the answer to that. I don't know what time it is, and I just said
It's 11:17.
11:17. So that means we have 13 minutes. Is that right? I can't tell time. I want to thank you very much for all of us, for first of all being interested enough to go, and then to be willing enough to share. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it.
Well, I think we all enjoyed it.